Welcome back, everyone, to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. We are done with WrestleMania Saturday. Night one is in the books, and he turned. Paul Heyman turned on not only CM Punk, but Roman Reigns. He has now aligned himself with Seth freaking Rollins. It's not the only big story to come out of WrestleMania. We'll be breaking that story down and more right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
Once again, welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. You're here for the instant reaction review of the first night of WrestleMania 41. And again, there are a lot of stories coming out of this one. The big one, of course, we've seen at the end there is the... I was going to say championship. It wasn't even for a title, was it? It was simply for what seems to be custody of the wise man, Paul Heyman. Of course, Paul Heyman turns on, again, not just CM Punk, but also turns on Roman Reigns, aligning himself with Seth Rollins. I felt like it was something that was coming for a while, but still, I think the way it was executed was quite good. And yeah, it wasn't the only big shock on the night. It wasn't the only big result. We're going to be breaking them all down as we go throughout the stream. But hey, my name is Scott. I'm here for the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Thank you so much for joining me, whether you're live or on demand. I want to know what you think of WrestleMania Saturday. Skibidi Rizzler's in the house. This is crazy. I can't believe it. He turned on Punk and Reigns. Sludge Sports is with us as well. Hope you guys enjoyed WrestleMania. Look, it's a big show to break down. One I do think overall was a good show. I do think it was a hit. There was a point halfway through the night where I felt like this is mid-card mania, right? I actually felt like halfway through I was like, I'm not sure if everything coming up is exciting me that much. But I think it delivered. And even from the point, and I'll explain that later on, where that was that those kind of thoughts started to creep in. Even from that point, it started to pick up very quickly. Look, we started out with a big match. Jey Uso going at it with Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. It started off again in a big way. Very enjoyable match, this one here. Look, it was the feel-good moment we all expected. And the feel-good moment I think Jey Uso deserved to get. Now, I know a lot of people lately have been talking about Jey Uso, and maybe it's kind of run thin for them. A lot of people saying, look, it's just an entrance. But I've also seen a lot of people say today, look, the internet and the arena or the stadium this time around, of course, is very different. There was a huge reaction for Jey Uso. I did think it was a bit mild when he first came out, but I think when he actually got into the audience and they were all kind of yeeting with him, I think it came across very well. Big entrance. You had the flags, you had the cheerleaders, you had the dancers. A great entrance for Jey Uso. Of course, he has really been mild the past few weeks, wearing none of his merch or anything like that. So to see him go big, I think made a lot of sense and kind of, reflected where we were at in that story as well, where we've got to. Sludge says, I completely agree with mid-card mania, but the main event didn't make up for it. Look, I enjoyed those matches that I would claim to be mid-card as well. I've got to say, it felt like it was just no matches or no moments or surprises and very predictable. I'd say for the most part, I think it was predictable. There were still a few shocks as far as results go, but the matches were kind of what I expected them to be, but still very entertaining as well. But let's start off, as I say, let's go at the very beginning. Let's talk about Gunther versus Jey Uso. Jey got very close very quickly. Hit the splash, and then I realized, man, there's a long way to go with this. And the big fear about Jey Uso matches is that he does super kick and then super kick and then super kick. And there was a little bit of that. I mean, it was more splash. But there was a little bit more variety, I have to be honest. And I think his pairing with Gunther worked quite well. I think their styles are very different. And I think Gunther kind of I don't want to say brought a good match out of Jey, as if Jey's not a good wrestler. I mean, he's had some of the greatest tag team matches in history. But his style lately has been very much of the same, and I think people got quite bored of some of his, his matches essentially. This one I felt was different. He kind of gave it all he got really at the end of the match itself. The kind of last few moments were quite cool. Before we get there though, Gunther did take control, of course, with a title shot to the head of Jey Uso, but Jey Uso tried his best to kind of not only use his own repertoire but Gunther's as well. Hits him with a nice power bomb, hits him with a spear, of course Roman Reigns' move as well, which he does do. I mean, thinking back, Jey Uso's got a bit of a weird, it's kind of like when you make a wrestler on the SmackDown games and you just give him all the finishers. That's kind of Jey Uso at the moment. But he hits 3 splashes, one of them onto the back. Then he sets Gunther up for a sleeper, and I thought, okay, this is interesting. And then he tapped. Like, wow, what a massive kind of moment, really, to do it. No, I get it. I think because of what Gunther did to Jimmy, the kind of blood feud that it became, I think it was a good way to do it. My only kind of, I don't want to say concern, but my only thing is like when we look back on the day that Jey Uso finally became a world champion, it will be with a move that's not his, which is kind of weird, like it told the story, but like it was his first title win, his first major title win, took him world title, WWE title. So I think that's a little bit odd. But again, as far as the story itself goes, I think it did make sense and I did quite enjoy it. A great reaction from the fans. And they were yeeting pretty much straight away after that as well. So look, I've got to be honest, represented the Yeet Man here tonight. He's not my favorite wrestler. Like, this makes it look like I'm like a massive Jey Uso mark, right? That's not the case. I do appreciate him and I do think he's a good wrestler. So this isn't blindness. This isn't me just going, oh look, I mean, clearly he's a big Jey Uso fan. Of course he's happy about this. I think I can subjectively look at the Jey Uso situation and understand why some people aren't too thrilled with some things he's been doing lately. I haven't been kind of too entertained, but entertaining is the main word in that. I think he is a very entertaining character overall. I think we look back to a year or so ago, or even before that. I mean, look at random things like him in the Bloodline, cracking, even though that you could be saying that's unprofessional, but at the same time, look, people enjoyed it, right? And then that moment with Cody when I think they won the tag titles, right? And he was saying yeet and all that in the press conference. He'd had a few shandies, basically. Not that I don't know what that's, not that I know what that's about. But anyway, maybe I'll just say yeet after every line on this promo I'm about to do in WrestleMania. But like, I think it was something that was a long time coming. But again, if we saw this a year ago, I think a lot of people, even the doubters and people that are against him at the moment, would say back then, maybe not back then he deserved to be world champion, but he was on a trajectory to belong in that kind of, upper tier in WWE. And I think he deserves it, man. I think he's had a great few years. And it's a great moment for someone who, is moving merch at the moment and is connecting with the audience. So, yeah, pretty happy with this. Daniel Wiley says, this is absolute BS. Why, Paul? We're going to get to the main event in due course. Don't you worry, Daniel. But thank you so much for joining us, mate. Good to see you on board again. Sludgeball says, I also forgot to say my Mania meal on the build-up show. I had ravioli as a snack and fish and rice for a Mania meal. Nice one, Sludge. Always love to hear your Mania or PLE kind of snacks and things like that as well. So thanks for filling us in. If you're unfamiliar with what Sludge is talking about there, before the show, we had our build-up show for WrestleMania Saturday. So thank you so much to everyone that joined us on that. We're going to do the same for WrestleMania Sunday. So if you did miss out, don't worry. We'll have a build-up where we get ourselves and you guys hyped up for the PLE. But right now, it's all about the instant reaction review for night 1 of WrestleMania. The next matchup we saw was for the tag team championships, the War Raiders defending against the New Day. Now, this was weird. Like, it weren't a bad match, but I still, like, and I don't want to say what was it for, because obviously it was to give the New Day the titles. I think they're 13-time champions now. If you count the free red bird rule, which we shouldn't, because I hate it, and that's another story for another day. And I've moaned about that a million times on this channel, the main Rebellious Noise channel, and the Talking Beans podcast. So if you want to hear me moan about that, you've got plenty of opportunities to dig that out of the vault. But look, I thought this was about something bigger. I thought the reason they'd put this on the show over the SmackDown Tag Team Championships was because there was a big story to tell, and there weren't. Big E didn't come back. He didn't align himself with the New Day again, as I thought he would. I thought he was going to turn heel and be with them, and he didn't help the War Raiders defend against the New Day either. It was nothing to do with Big E in the end, which is disappointing. And I think this started to put things in kind of perspective for me of like, sometimes you're not always going to get these big moments in WrestleMania. You think, oh, there'll be something tonight. And I thought, I don't know, maybe it's not as much as we were expecting. Look, that's not to say it weren't a good match. There was some impressive stuff, as always, from Ivar, the big man, doing his springboards and moonsaults and stuff like that. He did seem to slip on that moonsault, landed a little bit off on the legs. I think it was on top of Kofi, actually. Wood saved it with an elbow drop. Yeah, it was Kofi, just looking at my notes again. And Eric hit a crazy knee a little while after that. Kofi pushed Ivar off the ropes, and Kofi holds the legs down while Woods goes for the pin, picking up the victory, and again becoming 13-time champions, I think it is now, for the New Day. So yeah, impressive victory for the new champions. But it... all right, I just don't really understand why this got the position on the card over what was going on SmackDown. That's not to say their heel turn hasn't been important. When there's limited spaces, I was shocked. Sludge Sport says, on the build-up show, I said this was a toilet break match, but I think it was the second best match on the card. But I was disappointed. Nothing happened. This could have been on a random Raw. Yeah, I kind of got what you're saying there. It was a good match, but yeah, was it WrestleMania worthy? Was it necessary to be on the WrestleMania card as far as the story goes? I'm not really sure. Also, I think this match solidified my love for Ivar. He is so big, but he's so flexible and is one of the most underrated wrestlers at the moment. It's Sludge. And also says, oh, by the way, going back to the Jey and Gunther match at the end, did you see the lady ruining Jey and Jimmy's moment? Like, some people have no sense. Yeah, I did notice that. It reminds me of the one where Punk come back at Survivor Series, and there was that guy going Chicago. But I actually quite like that. I think it was quite funny. She was in this moment, and you could see, I think someone ran underneath him and ducked and tried to get to her. She stepped off first anyway when Jimmy was going up there. But it was nice to see Jimmy celebrating, wasn't it? Going back to that match, I was really fearful that it was going to do a turn, and we talked about this in the build-up. I just don't want to see that. I think Jimmy's worked so hard to kind of get himself back over, essentially. I was worried they were going to do a turn, and I'm glad they didn't. We got a big turn to talk about later on, guys. Don't you worry, we will get there. But again, the New Day are your new tag team champions on Raw. It's the world tag team titles that they hold. The next match to talk about is Jade Cargill versus Naomi. Now, this is kind of, I think, exactly what I expected this match to be. It was all about making Jade look good and go over, and I think it was pretty impressive what we saw on this match. We saw a great entrance for Naomi with all the caution gear and stuff like that. She bust through this kind of, I don't know, big old blanket that said caution on it. So two people holding up. That's a bit odd. But yeah, maybe they should have had a tighter shot for that. She had a brand new theme song, by the way, a very kind of like metal theme, which, you know, not sure how much they fit in with her character. But different. At least she's not using her old theme or her new old theme, if that makes sense, because she weren't using the for a little while anyway, even when she was a babyface. So yeah, she's had 3 themes in, you know, since she's come back, essentially using the old one. Who knows? Maybe she'll switch it up to the Funkadactyls theme very soon as well. But yeah, Jade versus Naomi. Decent match. Starts out again with a big entrance for Naomi, but also a big entrance for Jade Cargill, who gets the Weather Channel to announce that a storm is coming to Las Vegas. And they use all these effects to show that. And yeah, you know, I get it. It was a little bit hit and miss, I felt. Maybe a little bit too kind of jokey for Jade's character. But yeah, I did get it. Right, we started out very strong. A nice little X Factor on the outside from Naomi off of the apron onto Jade Cargill. Naomi was caught into a kind of suplex position that got turned into a jackhammer amazingly by Jade. Like, and it was a few of these spots, but some of them felt like they were so similar that it felt like they felt like the first one went wrong, so they wanted to do it again. But they were different spots, so they could have been that. But they were similar enough that it kind of felt like that. But man, the way Jade caught her in the air and then again hit her with that that jackhammer was unbelievable. But again, then we got the same thing again, but with a fall away slam. Jade hit a beautiful nip up as well. Then we had a really, really risky but perfectly executed in some ways. Top rope wheelbarrow into a bulldog position, right? Usually this is a staple of the indies, I think about 15-20 years ago. Even when I was doing some training, I loved doing this little spot. You roll through into a wheelbarrow, then boom into a bulldog. But they did it on the top rope. Like Naomi just, there was a lot of trust in that. To be caught, hit that, boom, and then hit the bulldog off the top rope. I think it was a fantastic spot. We also saw a split-legged moonsault not long after that from Naomi. Only gets the 2 on this one as well. And then a, I don't even know how to describe it. A backwards switch around powerbomb, right? So Jade had Naomi on her shoulders, I think, right? And they were facing forward. She kind of yeeted her in the air, if you will, and turned around and just powerbombed her to the ground. Now, the awkward thing is, like, she leant into it like she was going to pin, and then she let go of it, and then she did, Jaded, hit the 3, which was cool. Yeah, she should win, and it was a nice little end. But it felt like she was confused, like, you know, like in a game where you do a move and it's attached to a pin and it's too early in the game, so it doesn't actually pin, right? So a power bomb, like I remember back in the day in SmackDown, you did a power bomb and the second one's a pin, like Jericho's a double power bomb, and like it just kick out, right? That's what it kind of felt like. It felt like, or like if you're playing again in the game and you do a move that's automatically goes into a pin because of the way it's coded, not that like Jade Cargill's coded in a certain way. But like it's like a first blood or something like that, or a submission, so there are no pins. That's what it felt like to me. And she did that a few months back as well, where she did this, you know what she does, where she leans over and she does the whole, you know, on her face with her hand. And I felt like it got away with it then, because I was like, oh, it's symbolic. It's symbolic. It weren't actually a pin. But like that's twice we've kind of seen that from Jade. I'm not saying she doesn't know the rules of wrestling or anything like that. Yeah, she is somewhat new in the industry still. But like overall, I think it was a really enjoyable match. And I think Jade looked like $1,000,000, and it was exactly what you needed. I think Naomi looked really good as well. My big concern going into it was like, is this good for Naomi? You know, but I think it made sense for storyline. I just think it's the right time for Jade to win rather than Naomi. But she's had a one-on-one match at WrestleMania. It's a non-title match in a big, big grudge feud. And while I don't think this is the end of it, I do think the fact that she got the match over Bianca or over it being a triple threat is a big deal as well. So, yeah, congratulations to Naomi and to Jade for a great performance in this one. As Sludge says, though, it looks like we are going to get Bianca, Jade, and Naomi at SummerSlam, or maybe just Bianca and Jade at SummerSlam. Again, we'll dive into this further, I'm sure, in the coming, not just weeks and months, but maybe coming days, because I do feel like tomorrow night on WrestleMania Sunday, we will see a little bit of progression here as far as the Bianca Belair situation. But I could be wrong. I mean, there was a lot of things on Saturday I expected to see that just didn't happen. Sludge says overall, this was like the most average match on Mania today. Look, I really enjoyed this one. I got to say, look, it was getting to this point though where I was thinking, again, like, and I don't really want to say it, but like mid-card Mania is what I was starting to think. I was looking at the card and I was thinking, like, these are good. Like, what's coming up next? I was like, yeah, it's the US title. Then you've got El Grande Americano, and then you've got the women's title, which at the time I was thinking, oh, I don't know, that's going to go down. And then you've got the main event, of course, the triple threat, which arguably maybe doesn't deserve to be a main event at the time, you know, thinking it's not a title match or anything like that. Look, it was great, and we'll get to it in a bit. But at the time, I was looking at the rest of the card thinking, has it peaked already? Like, other than the main event, I knew something big would happen in the main event, but I was like, has it really peaked? I've got to say that, man, like the next few matches delivered. It really, really did continue to pick up. I thought it was a really, really good show. It weren't the best WrestleMania Saturday which is a weird thing to say now. You know, it's a thing now. It's what, 5 years in now, having 2 nights at WrestleMania, but it still was really enjoyable. And a big part of that was the US title match. Jake and Fatu, of course, trying to get the title off of Mr. LA Knight. Now, LA Knight doesn't come away with a championship, but does come away with a great match under his belt, essentially at WrestleMania. We talked about on the build-up show, you know, I think it was 2 years ago now, maybe even 3 years, but we were all upset when he weren't on the card, right? This time he's gone into it with a title. He loses the title. He's not as, I don't think, as over as he was a year ago or anything like that, but still very much an important part of the show. Let's go back to the start of the match, though. Jake and Fatu comes out with a pretty cool entrance. He's got a werewolf mask on, I think it was. I assume it was meant to be a werewolf, since he's the Samoan werewolf. LA Knight shows up with his Uber driver. That was a bit of a weird. Just like, what was that guy doing? I just sent him a headset. He wouldn't even look. He wouldn't even turn around. He was just like, LA Knight, go out of the car. No, I'm not looking. I'm not looking. Yeah, tip me later. Really weird. Really weird. And since we had 2 car entrances, I'm not sure it was a good idea. They played into the show. Oh, you know, chauffeur driven. It looked like LA Knight wasn't allowed to drive the car. That's what it looked like to me. And we've seen it before where people are hiding, like in the car, actually doing the drive-in or whatever. But like, this is straight up like, here I am on my headset. It just looked really weird. But look, let's get on to the match itself. Started very early on with a attempt to win by LA Knight, as all good wrestlers should, right? He hits his finisher. We tries to hit it early. Fatu counters the BFT, and it sets us up for a quite exciting start to the match. Knight jumps up for the released German onto the top rope. I love the way LA Knight does that. Fatu sells a beautiful German with a backflip, and he lands. Only gets the 2. LA Knight, though. Fatu takes over not long after this with a kind of like butt squish and a swanton bomb. Only gets the 2 himself. Then there's a 50-50 kind of split between the audience. It's kind of a let's go LA Knight, or let's go, you know, something like that. LA Knight, Jacob Fatu chant back and forth. Really did feel split in this one. I'm actually glad it was, because I think people really like Jacob, but I did have a bit of a fear that it might kind of create this kind of feeling that LA Knight is not cool anymore. But that didn't seem to be the case. People were very much behind LA Knight as well. Then we got this amazing spot where Jacob Fatu goes for the moonsault, and it's reversed into the BFT in the middle of kind of the air. Amazing. Now, this was deserving of a win. This is the kind of thing that you see Randy Orton hit out of nowhere, and it gets the free count. It didn't for this, and I was kind of disappointed in that, but the way they did it made sense. Like, he got the ropes. Maybe it should have been even getting the ropes is like, it's easier than kicking out, I guess. So you're not using as much energy. You can do it on a kind of a, 95% dead kind of scale. But I don't know. Maybe it was a bit of a waste. I'm not sure, but a great spot nonetheless. Then you got this kind of it's a weird senton thing he did on the top of it. He had LA Knight sitting on the top. He jumped up, turned around, he's back on him as a senton. Then I think he hit a swanton bomb, and then like 3 moonsaults, or maybe it's a swanton and then a moonsault. Anyway, he hit him a few times, picked up the victory. Jacob Fatu, your new United States champion, and I think well deserved. And again, a really enjoyable match. This one, one that I do think is going to be remembered quite fondly, and one that I think stood out quite well on this show overall. Jacob versus Knight was a great match to Sludge Sports overall, but it felt like mid-card mania. I shouldn't have said that, should I? I should have said mid-card mania, because Sludge, you're running with it now, aren't you? They should have just had the pink card. Like, oh, Tiffy. Yeah, we'll get to Tiffy's entrance in a little bit. That was the US title match, though, guys. Look, let me know what you thought of the show overall. Was you a fan of it? Is there anything you would have changed? Look, we're going match by match, but I'm happy to hear your comments for each and every one of them, and we'll dive into them as we make our way through the stream. If you're watching on demand, by the way, guys, or if you're watching on the Sunday build-up show, I know it's going to be repeated on that. Again, get your comments in, and I'll get back to them in whatever time frame we're in there as well. So let's move on to the next match, which was supposed to be Rey Mysterio going up against El Grande Americano. Now, of course, Rey Mysterio got injured on SmackDown. They announced it tonight that he wasn't going to be involved in a match, and instead it would be Rey Fenix that, I guess, defended his honor. Now, the concern we had on the build-up show, and this is still something that might be an issue, is that Dragon Lee maybe deserved that spot more. Great match. Don't get me wrong. Love Rey Fenix. Do not get me wrong. But Dragon Lee was a big part of this storyline. And I think for me, I felt like El Grande Americano was going to be unmasked at the end of this. And maybe there was a change because of who was in the match. Maybe they decided to kind of long out the storyline essentially because of it. But I was surprised. A bit surprised at least, because I kind of understood the Rey Fenix thing, that Dragon Lee wasn't the one to take Rey Mysterio's space. But instead, again, it was Rey Fenix, and man, what an incredible achievement. Like, he's just come into the company and he's had his WrestleMania debut before his brother Penta, by the way, who debuted a good few months before him, yet somehow he's had a WrestleMania match before Penta. Yeah, incredible when you think about it that way. Let's get to some of these comments here as well. Oh, hell no. What did you say? Dragon Lee? Oh, sorry, Saj. I forgot how much you hate Dragon Lee. I would have seen Sour. I'm sorry. All right. I'm sorry, Sludge. Look, but I just think, look, maybe you're not a fan of his work, but I think he's pretty cool, and I think he's done well lately and deserves to be in that spot. But anyway, let's move on to the match itself and who was actually in the spot. Again, Rey Fenix is taking the position here over Rey Mysterio. I think they did a great job at reproducing that promo package last minute. The first 3/4 of it was about the original feud. It was about El Grande Americano. It was about Rey Mysterio and kind of the history of Luchador, wrestling. And then they tweaked it. They put the Rey Fenix stuff in there as well. So I think they did very well. The whole kind of package for this was interesting. Of course, the thing is that El Grande Americano is supposed to be this kind of legendary figure that is American, but is a luchador and went to Mexico, was a superstar, went missing. Now he's showing up in WWE. They did this typical kind of thing they do in TV shows to represent Mexico. They put the yellow tint on the camera. They did this kind of old school kind of graphics on the screens as well. They did it was kind of what do you call it, jittery footage and stuff like that to kind of make it look old fashioned. And then you also had a mariachi band as well. Now, of course, let's be honest, guys, this is surely Chad Gable, but whoever it is under that mask, man, they performed so well in this match. I think them and Rey Fenix to work this well on that stage, unprepared, is amazing. Yes, they're pros, and yes, they can pull a match out of the out the bag every now and then, I'm sure, without really thinking about it. But man, I think they did such a good job. Sludge Sports says this was a good match, but it felt like a Vince McMahon match. No unmasking, no surprise, just a match. What I said before, until the main event, it was just matches. Look, I thought it was a good match, though. I do think it was a good match, and yeah, maybe no surprises. And I don't know, what more did we need? I did think he was going to be unmasked. I did think there would be some sort of revelation with America Made, but yeah, maybe the whole situation Rey changed that, or maybe if Rey faced him, this is what we would have seen anyway. I'm not quite sure. Right. We had AAA representation as well. Vikingo was there. He kicked Chad Gable, El Grande Americano, in the head. later on would console Rey Fenix. Spoiler alert: Rey loses this match here, which I was very shocked by, actually. Let's start out with some of the big moves in the match. Rey Fenix is a beautiful kind of roll through Hurricane Run to start the match. Wade Barrett and Pat were great on commentary in this, by the way, really putting over El Grande Americano and basically saying, we need to do some more research ourselves. We need to find out more about this. And kind of Michael Cole's trying to be the straight guy, saying, look, this is Chad Gable. What the heck are you talking about? And they were just trying to, move away from those rumors, I guess. But yeah, very, very clever. I think the way they managed this on commentary. There was an amazing throw from Chad Gable, El Grande Americano, I should say. That beautiful kind of throw that they just fly. It is, you got to sell it perfectly as well. But man, he's such a specimen. And I think as a performer, let's just talk about Chad Gable now, right? As Chad Gable, I think he's incredible. And I think the past few years have proved so much. This is the man that was given Shorty G. And even back in the day when he was with Jason Jordan in NXT, I really liked his work. But now, he's kind of like the total package, to use a Lex Luger term. He's got everything. Man, he's such a talent. And to change up his style, he's got a great technical style anyway, but he wrestles differently as El Grande Americano. There we go. I was gonna say El Grande Mexicano. That's probably his last nemesis. He wrestles differently. Yeah, there are Chad Gable isms because he is Chad Gable and he's got to kind of, remind us that in the storyline as well. But to kind of switch up his style like this, honestly, one of the best guys on the roster, in my opinion. I think he's so good. Right. He's not a good guy, though. He's a bit of a naughty man, and he cheats to win in this match. Before we get there, though, we do have this kind of incredible backwards 450 splash or 450 senton from El Grande Americano, which we've not seen as Chad Gable. So maybe it's not Chad Gable, guys. Maybe it's not. Then he gets a metal plate in a mask, which is a bit of a spot. I'm not a big fan of it because surely it'd be hurting him as well, Anyway, he gets stopped. Then Rey Fenix tries the old goodbye amigo as he runs across the ropes, which is so good, man. How does he do that and not fall? Anyway, he kind of falls here because he's stopped by El Grande Americano. Then he goes for another one. He does hit it, but his foot hits El Grande in the face. And El Grande is wearing the metal plate or whatever it is, right? It hurts Rey Fenix's foot. He's selling it. And then what do you know? El Grande Americano is taking the leaf out of Chad Gable's book by using the ankle lock. And even this, they tried to joke around about it. Pat was yeah, also used by Ken Shamrock, also used by Kurt Angle to kind of be it doesn't mean it's Chad Gable. But yeah, that was pretty much the beginning of the end. We got a diving headbutt, or a normal headbutt, I should say, from El Grande Americano. Then a diving headbutt using that plate as well and picked up the victory. But a really, really good match. Really enjoyable. And one I'm glad was on the card. It would be interesting to kind of hear what they had planned for Rey Mysterio. Was it going to be the same match? Was it going to be the same result? I don't know, but what I do know is that we saw a very entertaining showing between two amazing luchadors. They also mentioned the AAA acquisition. We've talked about this on the build-up show again. This is why these build-up shows are so fun. We just kind of, breaking news and stuff like that. So again, please join us for tomorrow night's build-up show for the Sunday edition of WrestleMania as well. Sludge says, do you think Randy Orton will kick Nick Aldis in? Well, sorry, I'm still thinking about kicking. I'm thinking about the punt for Randy Orton there. Do you think Randy will face Nick Aldis? I'm not sure. I'm not sure at this moment in time. There's a lot of rumors going around. I think Nick Aldis is the most likely. So yeah, let's just go with that for now. But we'll break it down further on the live portion of Sunday night's build-up show. Don't you worry, Sludge. We'll talk about that in depth. Going from AAA to HBK, we next get the attendance figure announced from the break kid. About 61,000, I think it was. Pretty impressive. It looked amazing. It looked bigger than that, if I'm honest. It looked bigger than that on camera. By the way, some of the production we saw here was crazy. Like, there's fans sitting in the stage now, like on top of the stage, on the side of the stage, and I don't think it really took away from the audience, like, excuse me, from the entrances. And I get it. Like, I get it's money. Make that money. Talk about make that money. Did you see how many ads were on the flipping canvas? And then the ads on the outside, the screens, and then there was the turnbuckle pads. They had ads on them as well. Like, yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it looks kind of tacky in some ways, but like, get that bag. Do you know what I mean? Like, fair enough, man. And then you got matches being, sponsored by certain organizations and things like that as well. But anyway, HBK comes out, drops the attendance figure, and dips essentially. First of all, comes out to his own theme song, leaves to DX while the audience starts singing along to it. So yeah, that was good. Right. Then we move into a match I was worried about. Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair. Woo! And I can say woo now comfortably because this was a fantastic match and it had the result it deserved. Like, this isn't me saying Charlotte's bad and Charlotte shouldn't win ever. This is me saying it was the right time for Tiffany to win. And this match and the story being told deserved the right ending. And the right ending was Tiffany Stratton picking up the victory. Look, we'll get to how she did it in just a moment, but let's go back to the very beginning of the match. And let's go back even further, talk about the feud. Look, I've been saying it over the past few days on this channel. I don't buy the shoot they've been doing because, you know what, I think they worked amazingly in the ring. So either they've been unprofessional and suddenly are like, great. I mean, there's some hard-hitting stuff, so you could argue maybe not. Maybe a few slip-ups here. But the fact they delivered, whether they're mates in real life or not, man, it was a great match. And again, the big fear for me was that maybe it is legit and maybe Charlotte isn't gonna, lay down essentially. But no, she did. And I think it was the right decision. Again, let's go back to the very beginning of the match itself. Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair for the WWE Championship. And you have the Royal Rumble winner not being in the main event twice on this same night. Lucas mentioned that earlier on the build-up show. It is a shame. But look, a great story told. Now, we started out with a fantastic entrance, a Barbie entrance, branded as well. They said it was related to Mattel, so they got a relationship with them, of course, with WWE figures. I thought it was a great entrance, man. Like, in the middle, of course, you had Tiffany in the box. She makes her way out, and either side, you had other Barbie doll boxes essentially, but with video screens, which are clearly video screens, don't get me wrong, but they still looked amazing. They still look really good. Yeah, fantastic entrance. I really like this, and I like the whole stage setup as well. We talked about it a little bit on our kickoff watch along on Friday night. We've done a lot of streams this past few days, guys. And I do like it. And I didn't really notice what it's supposed to be. Andy said on the build-up show, again, another stream we've done, it's a casino kind of feel. And that makes sense, actually. You just look like a big block to me. But yeah, it's the big old casino hotels and things like that. But yeah, they used it quite well here. I think the stage looked amazing for a lot of these kind of entrance videos and stuff like that as well. Did Tiffy chip a tooth? I think she did, man. I really think she did. And there was also that thing on her head, which I thought was blood and a smear, which I actually think it was in the end, but Wade said was a bruise. But we'll talk about how she got there, man. It was, yeah, it was tough. I'm not going to lie, says Sludge. This was a long match. Don't worry. I just couldn't pay attention to this match. I don't know if I was having lunch at the time. It was probably a good match. No, it was a good match. I mean, I think you missed out. If you didn't lock in and zone in on it, Sludge, I think you did miss out because there was a point. I won't lie. There was a point actually in this match where I did start to think, it's starting to drag now. But I think they saved it. I think they turned it back around. So we started out again with a big entrance for Tiffany. Got another great entrance as well for Charlotte Flair. This time with a car that made a lot more sense. They didn't show her getting out of the car. I think that might have been because of the awkwardness of all of her get up, essentially. Great gear, by the way. Both of these guys wearing basically the same color. A bit of blue in, I think it was Charlotte's gear, pink and blue, but just pink for Tiff. And a few weeks ago, of course, they were wearing the black together as well. And I think that was probably on purpose. It feels like a little bit of a nod. Of course, this whole kind of, like, Tiffany just feels like kind of like Charlotte Flair, but not really. And even Charlotte's kind of alluded to that as well. But there's something about it, it's not just that they're blonde, but there's something, the moonsaults and things like that as well. Right. When Flair was making her way to the ring, though, an interesting thing, it showed the graphic of her title history, WWE Championships, World Title Championship. And I thought, hold on, when she won that? What are you talking about? So obviously, whichever one's which, one is the Raw, one is the SmackDown one. They've basically rebranded. Whereas on the men's side, they kind of pretended it was a new title, but even though it looked like the old World Heavyweight, and now they're adding on to that lineage, it's a confusing thing. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. Because apparently she's a 6 or 7 time world champion. Beats me. Never seen her hold that title in my life. But there you go. Under 4 years is my next note for Tiffany. They mentioned it on commentary. For someone that's not even been in the business for 4 years to be having a performance like this on this stage, I think it was very impressive. Don't get me wrong. I do think she had the kind of the match of her career so far, because it was, and this is a weird thing to say, but she was sloppy in spots. She seemed kind of behind and out of it and couldn't keep up at times. And I do think it showed the level of Charlotte and Tiffany, and where Tiffany's got to get to. But again, that's no disrespect. Like, under those lights in that condition, like 4 years into the business, she did amazing. It was still a great match, but I do think there were a few things in the match that made me think, like, she looked exhausted at the end of it. Like, she took a few rough hits as well. As look, we mentioned it looked like a tooth was chipped. She had a bloody mouth as well, potentially a bruise on her head, but I do think again that was a smearing of the blood. But I do think it showed like she'd been through the wars and she deserved to come out on top, I think, in a crowning moment. So yeah, a really, really good show for Tiffany. But let's go back to some of the big moments in the match. It started out with a nice little brawl between the two. As you imagine, it's a blood feud. They're kind of built towards that now. There's a Stephanie Vacua reference in her kind of move that she does, where her knees are around the wrestler's head and all that. Charlotte did it differently, don't get me wrong, but they made a comment to it and a reference to it on commentary. A moonsault from the top rope by Tiffy, but she lands on her feet. Great bit of athleticism there. Some beautiful chops from the Nature Boy's daughter, as you would expect, with some trash talking to go with it as well. There's a crossbody roll through, only gets the 2, but at this point I noticed that Tiff did have her bloody mouth. Not sure where it happened, but not long after this, Tiffany attacks the knee of Charlotte Flair. They worked around that, the knee brace. Charlotte tries to do the figure 4. She can't turn it into the figure 8. Her knee is starting to get on top of her. Then, speaking of knees, we get the prettiest moonsault ever, but the knees go up from Charlotte Flair. I love this spot. The fact that they played into a real-life injury and the fact that they were willing to risk it was a big deal. Charlotte, if she didn't... Look, if she's as bad as some people say, she wouldn't have been going into this with that knee and doing the spot she did with that knee. To put her knees up in this match, and I think it told a lot for the story as far as the match goes itself, if you talk about legit injuries, but in the match they were working on the knee, it was a great kind of image. Like, she is willing to sacrifice what was already her kind of Achilles heel in that match in order to make sure Tiff didn't get over. Anyway, only gets the 2 on it, though. It doesn't work out for her there. She hits the natural selection from the top rope. Again, only gets the 2. Not sure about that. Top rope moves, in my opinion, top rope versions of finishes, even though it looks a little sloppy. I'm not sure. If it's for a title at WrestleMania, it's different. There were a lot of false finishes in the main event, which we'll get to in a little bit. Tiffany wins, though, with the prettiest moonsault ever, and she looked shattered at the end. Like I said, great match overall, really, really enjoyable, and ultimately the match I think we all deserve to see, as fans. I think this is the match we've invested in, for Tiffany Stratton. This was, I think, a moment that really made her kind of, again, showed her a little bit out of depth. I'm not going to lie. Charlotte didn't look as worse for wear at the end of it, because I think Charlotte's used to a lot of this. But this, Charlotte took her to a new level. And I think that's exactly what we needed. I think Charlotte was, the perfect opponent for her. There was a lot of concern going into it that there was this, behind the scenes animosity and it might not go to plan and they might not kind of gel in the ring. But man, if that is the case, they put that aside. If it's not the case, I guess they did well to fool people, right? So, yeah, either way, fantastic match and a well-deserved victory for Tiffany Stratton and a fantastic performance. And credit has to be given. Flowers have to be given to Charlotte Flair. I know a lot of people don't like doing it, but look, it's easier to do when she hasn't won the title, right? I think if she'd won the title here, I'd be saying some different things, but it's not to say she don't deserve her praise, because she is an amazing performer. And again, this was a very enjoyable match. Then we get the Hall of Fame segment of the night, and it's the classic thing where they all come out and then the headliner comes out to their own theme song. But interestingly, though, there was no Lex Luger. No idea why. I've looked it up online, and basically everybody's saying, where's Lex Luger? No idea. Haven't got a clue. Maybe we'll get a little bit of clarity, and by the time we do the live portion of the build show on Sunday night, we might have a bit of news, but hopefully everything's all right there. It was it was a shame not to see him, and very strange. Also very strange as well, did you notice Bret Hart rolled his eyes after Triple H shook his hand? Like, come on, man. Like, I like Bret, but I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it, but it didn't look good. It didn't look good. I saw some people say maybe Austin said something to him and he was kind of reacting to that. Maybe Brett's not. I know Brett's not really a fan of Triple H. I think he gave him a 4 out of 10, which is so ridiculous. But yeah, okay. I know he's not a fan. But you brought in for this moment, like just enjoy it, you know. But maybe you just didn't like the fact that Triple H then got his big moment after that. I know it can look like, you know, with an hour and 7-minute speech, it's all about him. It's all about the game, eh? Anyway, let's move on for that. But yeah, Hall of Fame segment came at this point, and then we move in to the main event of night 2. Show some class, says Sludge. Show some class. Main event of night 2 featured Seth freaking Rollins, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and it was all about who's going home with Paul Heyman. They did a great promo video for this. I'd seen it earlier on, I think it was on NXT when we were doing a watch along for that. The Machine Head song fit it really well. Even it, like, they slowed down the footage and zoomed in. There's black and white shot of like the brawl that they had, the pull apart between the three of them, and it just looks so cool. Yeah, talking of cool, Seth comes out first in this kind of big get up, all in black. Has a flamethrower with his logos all over it. Does it, boom, and then the screen lights up with fire, burn it down, all that good stuff. Then it goes black, nothing. Music comes back on, lights come back on. Seth's in white, now wearing the shades as well. Really cool entrance there. Roman, speaking of entrances, Roman comes out on his own, and it looked weird. Not only no Paul Heyman, but it really hit you that he's got no bloodline with him either. I know that's the story they played into before, you know, that they all will leave him. But they were on a good note at Survivor Series, but now they're not. Speaking of Survivor Series, at the end of Jey Uso's match, is it just me, or did you see Jey Uso, Survivor Series graphics pop up on the screen as well? Like the replay graphics. Maybe I'm going mad, but I thought I saw that. Right, going back to the match itself, Roman Reigns comes out on his own. It looked quite odd. Then as he makes his way into the ring, you see those kind of screens that were up and down on the ramp, and it was showing the kind of Samoan dynasty, essentially, showing all the kind of legends of the past. That was pretty cool. Talking about legendary, though, next up, we saw a kind of highlight package of CM Punk's career to the soundtrack of his old theme song, This Fire Burns by Killswitch Engage. Now, I am a big fan of this song, and I thought often recently, actually, about, I wonder if they'll ever have him enter with that. You know, you remember back in AEW, he came out to his old AFI theme song. So I thought he might be open to it, as much as he loves Cult Personality, which, of course, was a big part of this entrance as well. This Fire Burns was, you know, a key part of his career, you know, using that theme, and it showed, you know, it highlighted that period of his career. I think it was really, really well done. It was a greatly produced video, and he said in it, you know, this fire still burns. I mean, getting goosebumps, like The Rock says, just thinking about it. Great promo package. It reminded me of that Clash at the Castle when Drew didn't come out to what do you call it? His old theme song. What's it called now? You know what I'm saying? The old theme song, classic song. Broken Dreams. There we go. Just singing it in my head to try and remember the title. And then he came out to his main song. But yeah, it was a nice little introduction to that. So yeah, pretty cool to see that for CM Punk. And then he does come out to Cult Personality, of course, by Living Color. They are there in Living Color performing live. I gotta be honest though, the audio was a little bit off on the feed. It seemed like a good performance. I think the one at WrestleMania 29 was better. It came across better on camera at least. But yeah, still enjoyable. I loved it. Talking of WrestleMania 29, what a throwback. Seeing Punk come out in the old yellow trunks as well, wearing the grey hoodie, having Paul Heyman with him, the old put his watch in front of him for its clobbering time. Man, it's funny when Paul Heyman does an entrance with someone because he has different personalities for each of them. But yeah, a great kind of introduction to the match. And a real kind of exciting start to the main event. So, like I says, my favorite theme song is Cult Personality. It's a banger, mate. It's a good tune, I got to say. Right, let's get into the main event itself. They started out in the audience very early on. There were trash cans and things like that. It kind of set the scene falsely because I actually thought there was going to be a lot more hardcore stuff in this match. There were some big hardcore spots, don't get me wrong. But when they start with trash cans, you think they're going to go on with trash cans. Didn't happen, though. Seth and CM Punk fighting in the audience, essentially. Roman dives over the barrier into the both of them. And get things underway, gets them back into the ring, essentially. Soon you get a doomsday device on Seth. Punk hits it off the top rope. Seth takes it like a champ as well. Flips back off, basically, off of Roman Reigns' shoulders. Superman punch to Punk only gets a 2. Frog splash on top of an Anaconda device that's being held by CM Punk on Roman Reigns. Doesn't tap because the frog splash, of course, breaks it up. Then we get a buckle bomb on Punk. Always interesting to see when they use the buckle bomb. And then a spear gets turned into a pedigree, which was amazing. And again, another example of like, maybe that should have got the win. I was a little bit disappointed. Like, I didn't want the match to end at the time. Don't get me wrong, but a spear being reversed into a pedigree in that timing, like, I was like, this is the kind of thing you kick out of if it's like the most important match in WrestleMania history, right? Like Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns type stuff, or the streak or something like that. I don't think it was something they should have been kicking out of as much in this, because it felt like a title match that went for a title. The title was Paul Heyman, even though he wasn't on the line. He kind of was, do you know what I mean? He weren't officially, but he was, because the winner definitely went home with him. Or did he go home? I don't know. Don't know what they're doing. Maybe they have a good night. Either way, right. Spear into pedigree. Sorry, not only that, he rolled it through into a stomp and then still only got the 2. So yeah, a little while after this, more finishes. What do you know? Roman Reigns hits the spear on Seth Rollins. GTS hits Reigns with a CM Punk hits Reigns with GTS, only gets the 2 himself. Seth then wants help from Roman, and he's trying to encourage him to do the Shield powerbomb on the outside to the new announce table. Yet another new announce table. I don't think we're going to use this on Raw or anything like that, but he acted like it was the same one, because of course we haven't seen these new ones be destroyed on NXT. Spoiler alert, there was a bump. But I think they were the older ones, and this one wasn't a new one. It was a curved one. Both the American announce table and the kind of Spanish announce table had the same thing as well. But anyway, both of them get destroyed essentially by Roman Reigns, because Roman is encouraged by Seth to do the Shield powerbomb, and he just hits Seth and does a powerbomb on him instead, and on CM Punk. He throws them both through the announce tables. Now, the annoying thing is he didn't do the old, he should have done that. He should have done it and then hit Seth. But yeah, either way, it was a fun little spot. Quite enjoyable. Before that, though, Roman was really torn. The Shield thing plays into his mind a lot, and it happens here as well, and it happens at the end of the match, of course, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, hits Seth, does the powerbomb on his own to CM Punk through the table, and then does it through the Spanish announce table on Seth Rollins as well. A lot of guillotines in this as well. Hits one on CM Punk, which he reverses into the Anaconda device. A lot of Anaconda devices in this match as well. The sharpshooter worried me, man. When they put a sharpshooter in, because of Bret Hart's involvement with this weekend, I thought, no, they're They're not doing a screw job, are they? Like, they're not having Heyman tell someone to ring the bell, and that's how Heyman turns. Ugh, I was really worried, and I wonder if they thought people might think that way, and that's why they played, did it and possibly played into it. But anyway, didn't go anywhere, but it did worry me. Punk hits a stomp on Roman Reigns, so they start stealing finishes at this point. Then there's a GTF on Seth Rollins, only picks up the 2 once again, and Cole hits a comment about Punk at this point, burning bridges. They acted like CM Punk was a heel. They also said it, about Heyman, which I think weakened what Heyman did in some way, because they were like, "This is your fault, Heyman," like as if Roman's the like mega babyface. So I thought that was kind of a weird thing to do, to do on commentary, but it made Punk look like the bad guy, which they just don't like each other. There are good and bad traits in all these characters. That was kind of the story it felt like they were telling for the most part, until Seth turned to a really naughty man. But yeah, acting like Heyman was a heel for aligning with Punk just was a bit strange to me. Now we start getting towards the end of the match, though. GTS on Rollins. There's a spear on Punk. Seth Rollins hits the stomp on Roman Reigns, and they're all just laying there. And Andy mentioned on the build-up show, shout out to Andy from Wrestling Royalty. He said, look, what happens if they throw the chair in the ring? And it could be 2 ways. It could be that there's, oh my gosh, he's accidentally helped Seth, or he did it on purpose. Well, he didn't throw it straight towards Seth, but he did pick up a chair and he gave it straight to CM Punk. And the selling here of this moment from Roman Reigns was amazing. He looked shocked. He looked distraught. He looked betrayed. He looked angry. Perfect. And it was like, wow, this is it. And I was saying out loud, watching it, no, this ain't it. No. He's going to turn on Punk as well. And what do you know? That's exactly what he did. He hands the chair to CM Punk and he low blows him. And it felt like a big monumental moment. This whole story has been recently based on the allegiance of Paul Heyman, and it goes even further in a minute. But look, it was all about Paul Heyman and his kind of love for CM Punk, and that story that Punk told of how, he always said, look, when you main event WrestleMania, I'm going to walk to the ring with you. And, they showed clips of that recently as well, that promo. I think it was on Raw. So, yeah, I think it was very clever to use that sort of stuff to go back and kind of get that archive footage and make that part of this story. And, yeah, he turns on him, and it felt like a big deal. Then, though, and again, I knew it was coming. Look, I'm not a mind reader or anything like that, but I've just been saying for weeks, surely he's helping Seth Rollins here. And I said it, look, I think his demeanor is going to change. Everything about him is going to turn into a right nasty piece of work that we know Heyman can be. And that's what he did. He hits Punk with a low blow, and he gives the chair to Roman Reigns. And then he tells Roman, look, Seth is clawing up onto the ropes. This is just like the Shield. And some part of me thinks, they do this too often. They played into it a lot. Like the Sami Zayn thing kind of felt like that, a reference to the Shield. Last year at WrestleMania, they referenced the Shield. There's a few times they faced each other and kind of referenced the Shield. The other day on SmackDown a little while ago, he wore clothes that looked like, the Shield outfit he used to wear as well, but more elaborate version. And then they played into it here as well. But I think it was really well, executed. And look, he gives him the chair. He stands back, and I'm thinking he's going to hit him. And he does. Hits him with a low blow. Roman Reigns falls, and Seth Rollins takes advantage. It takes a little bit of time, though. They wrap up the match a little bit later than I expected. After this, it kind of lingers on for a little bit. But ultimately, Seth Rollins does pick up the victory, does take advantage of what Roman Reigns' wise man has done. And he's turned on both CM Punk and Roman Reigns in the same night, aligning himself with Seth Rollins. And I think it's great. I think it's a breath of fresh air for Seth Rollins. I think he's someone that's been kind of lost in the shuffle quite often. And, it makes sense. I think Roman's a massive star. CM Punk's a massive star. Seth's great as well. But I felt like a few months ago, no, maybe a year or so ago, I felt like it was getting a little stale again. And then to kind of change it up. And I think he's done well to stay, I don't want to say to stay relevant, but like he's done well to kind of, keep himself, reinventing and stuff like that. I think he's done really well. And lately they've kind of hinted that he's a little bit of the old Seth Rollins, the heel Seth Rollins, with the authority and stuff like that. And they made reference to it on commentary, by the way. And here we go. A new direction for him, a new direction as well, and a bit of breath of fresh air again for Paul Heyman. I think Paul Heyman needed something different, and him being all kind of, oh my gosh, fearful, scared, oh my god, oh no, I'm distraught, and I don't know, I'm so sorry, what have I done, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, that gets you so far, but we can't have that all the time. And I think the fact that he turned into this cold, callous, heartless Paul Heyman again, I think was amazing. I think it was a great end to the show. Look, did the moment deserve to close the PLE? 100%. Does CM Punk deserve to be in the main event of WrestleMania? 100%. But I do have an issue with Punk having been someone that missed out on those spots, even though he was champion at times and things like that. And now the same thing has happened. Jey Uso has had to win his title in the opening match. The women had an incredible match, and it didn't get to go on last. Look, does this match deserve to be last? Yeah, the match itself was amazing. But like the perception, I think, of what that gives off essentially about the World Heavyweight Championship is dangerous. And yeah, I don't want to be too negative. It was a really good show. And yeah, I did enjoy the match. I can't lie. Vicky says night one ratings for me, it's 9 out of 10. Vicky, you are rating it high. Look, I got to say, it was a very enjoyable show. It wasn't the best WrestleMania. It wasn't the best WrestleMania Saturday either, but it was very enjoyable. Like for a PLE, if this was like, and this is unfair because it would be bigger. If it was, maybe I shouldn't say like Backlash, or let's say if this was Survivor Series, I'd be like, yeah, one of the best, one up there. But for WrestleMania, it's tough. We've got so much to see on night 2 as well. 9 out of 10 is very generous, Vicky, in my opinion. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too. But I've seen some amazing WrestleManias in the past, and I can't give it even. I don't know if I can even give it a 7. Like, it was great. It was great. That sounds harsh, but like, if we're talking like WrestleMania 31, which was so good. Let's say that's like a 9, and like WrestleMania 17 is a 9.5. The past few years have been like, if you're talking like that, maybe 8s. So this is like, look, we haven't seen night 2 yet again, but on its own, I'm going between 6.5 and 7. And maybe that sounds harsh to some people, or weird, because I have really enjoyed it. But like, there weren't a lot of surprises. Like, there was a great surprise at the end. There was a great feel-good moment at the start of the show, and there were fun matches. And they made the best of things, such as Rey Mysterio getting injured and stuff like that. But it weren't like, we missed out on something happening big in the new. Like, they won, yeah, but like we didn't get Big E, So, and maybe that's just fans just kind of getting themselves hyped up. I mean, Jade Cargill versus Naomi was really fun as well. I think it did exactly what it needed to do. Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight was a great match as well. I said again earlier on, I was thinking, is this mid-card mania? But that each and every one of these matches delivered. Like, there wasn't a match on the show that I thought, that weren't all that. Each and every one of these matches delivered, like I say. So it was a really enjoyable. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna go 7. I think 7 out of 10 is a fair rating for night 1 of WrestleMania, and I think it's difficult rating it on its own. Once you see the whole package of night 1 and 2, maybe I'll kind of come up a little bit or something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll go down. I don't know. In kind of, comparison to what we see on night 2. But speaking of which, we will be live on Sunday, hitting you with with a build-up show for WrestleMania Night 2. You've been watching the Instant Reaction review. We've been covering WrestleMania in depth over this weekend. Of course, we did a watch along as well for NXT Stand and Deliver. So if you haven't seen that already, go and check that out. If you get some time before WrestleMania Sunday, then make sure you go and watch our original predictions for WrestleMania Sunday as well on this very channel. And again, we've got loads more content on here for you as well to sink your teeth into. Plus, a lot more coming in the form of live videos as well for WrestleMania weekend. We've got WrestleMania Sunday. We've got the Raw after WrestleMania to sink our teeth into as well. But we have been talking here about Night 1 of WrestleMania. You've been watching the Instant Reaction review, and I really thank you so much for joining us, whether it's been live or on demand. Thank you to everyone that's been with us over the weekend preview, the kickoff watch along we did, NXT Stand and Deliver, the build up for Night 1 again, and thank you for joining us here on the Instant Reaction review. We will be back for Night 2 of WrestleMania, and I hope you've enjoyed Night 1. I really have enjoyed it myself, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.